So we've looked at costs and we've looked at revenue, so now we can look at profit, and this is very important to firms. This is one of the main key objectives that we look at in economics for firms. Now this is a big specification objective, but in this presentation I'm only going to be looking at this middle part, this profit maximizing rule part, because I think it's important to understand that before you study perfect competition and monopolies. But I will be looking at the objectives of the firms after I've looked at actually different market structures, because I think it makes a little bit more sense then. Okay, so some key terms. So profit in an accounting sense is your revenue minus your cost. So your money that you've made from selling goods and services minus the cost it's been to create those goods and services. However, in economics, we do split it down into normal profit and supernormal profit, or sometimes known as abnormal profit. So normal profit is the amount needed to keep a firm in the industry that it's operating in. So say that that's £50,000 a year. If the profit dropped below that amount and the firm wasn't making that amount of money, the entrepreneur would think, well, I'll go and do something else with this. Okay, so it's taking into account I suppose the opportunity cost, that they could be doing something else with their time, else with their money, and so there's a minimum amount that they need to make to stay in that industry. And this is actually equal to that average cost curve that we've been looking at in the cost presentations, because average costs has in there that amount needed to keep that firm in the industry. Okay, so it does take account of that, whereas an accountant would just have actual costs that the business have had to spend. They don't take account of opportunity cost and those type of things. So supernormal profit is any amount earned above the normal profit, or you can say above the average costs. So have a look at this on the diagram. This is a diagram of a monopoly, and we've got our average cost curve here, we've got our marginal cost curve, marginal revenue, average revenue. Now the rule is that profit is maximised where output is at the point where marginal cost is equal to marginal revenue. So you have, I'm going to get my pen tool now, you have that point, and so that's the point you should be producing output, but that's not actually going to be the price because demand is way up above here. Remember, average revenue is equal to demand. So you draw your line upwards, and as soon as it hits average revenue, you can go to the side, and that's going to be the price. But where it intersects the average cost curve, that bottom box there represents this one, it's hard to do it with my mouse, that represents your costs of production. The total box here represents the revenue, so the amount above that costs must be your supernormal profit or abnormal profit. Okay, so that's for the market for a monopoly, and this is the market for perfect competition. The only thing that's different from this diagram to this diagram was that in perfect competition, they're price takers. So your marginal revenue is equal to your average revenue. So the demand curve is perfectly elastic, it's horizontal. They still, even in perfect competition, will be profit maximizers. So they still produce when marginal cost intersects marginal revenue. So they're going to produce at this point here. In this case, the average cost curve is below that point, below the marginal cost. So sorry, that was a bit high, but wherever it intersects, we go across, and we see, I think they've drawn this a little bit high there. I'm going to colour it in a bit because I think their profit's a little bit bigger. So we see there that red box representing the supernormal profit that they're making. Now, when we look at the perfect competition presentation, you're going to see that that is only going to occur in the short run because there are no barriers to entry. So that will actually be competed away. But important thing to remember from this presentation is this. That's the profit maximizing output. That's the rule where if you produce there, your profit will be maximized.